Hey Mr. Suhu, this is my Unit 3 video, and in this lesson we learned about imaginary numbers. Now, imaginary numbers are all irrational numbers that can't be written as a fraction. And a lot of people wonder as to when or where do we use imaginary numbers. And imaginary numbers are used in places such as electrical engineering. Now, in electrical engineering, we use imaginary numbers to sometimes figure out the range in miles of a broadcast signal from a radio tower. Now, in imaginary numbers, we use a letter such as I. I is equal to square root of -1, and I squared is equal to -1. Alright, Mr. Su, to show you how we use imaginary numbers, we're going to be using this equation. So, we're going to solve the system with either subtraction or elimination, okay? So, first off, this is going to be our equation, okay? So 2x minus 3 equals y plus 5x squared, okay? Now, this is going to be our y. Y equals -3x minus 3, okay? Now we're going to plug in y right here for our y. And when we move down, we're going to get 2x minus 3 equals, parentheses, -3x minus 3, parentheses, plus 5x squared. Okay? Desmos kind of cheats for you and gives you the answer at the end, but don't pay attention to that. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 to both sides. So we're going to add 3 right here and 3 right here, just to get rid of these two. Okay? Now, when we go down and we do that, we're going to get 2x equals -3x plus 5x squared. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 2x from 2 right here, and then we're going to subtract 2x right here as well. And we end up with -5x plus 5x squared, okay? Now, when we go down, this is going to be our quadratic equation, okay? So we're going to put it into the quadratic formula, and we're going to get 5x as our a, and then we're going to get -5x squared as our b, and then 0 as our c. Okay? So, now when we do it, we get -5 plus or minus the square root of -5 squared minus 4 times 5 times 0. Okay? All over 2 times 5, which is 10. Okay? Now, when we do the math up here, we get 5 times the square root of 25, okay? Actually, this should be hold on one second, sorry. Oops. But that should be positive, or plus or minus the square root of 25, so please forgive me for that, sorry. So when we move down and we square root that, and then that would be 5, okay? The square root of 25 is 5. So then we would do 5 plus 5 over the square, or over 10, okay? Which would give us 1. Then we would do 5 minus 5 over 10, which would give us 0. We're going to take these two and we're going to plug it in to our original y, okay? For this equation to get our actual answer, okay? So we're going to do f1 equals -3 times 1 minus 3, which would give us -6, okay? Now, when we do it the other way, we're going to get f1 equals -3 times 0 minus 3 equals 0. Now, just to show you, these would be your two answers. Okay, this would be the answer to number 4 on our practice test. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Suhu, and on to number 5. Okay, Mr. Suhu, now, what we're going to do is we are going to use Desmos to show a real-life example for explaining how a non-linear system helps you analyze real data. Okay, so this is number 5 on our practice test, and we are going to find the range in miles of a broadcast signal from a radio tower is bounded by a circle given by the equation x squared plus y squared equals 1600. A straight highway can be modeled by the equation y equals x plus 3 squared. Okay, for what lengths of the highway are cars able to receive the broadcast signal? Okay, so now this is how we're going to solve the equation. So pretty much we're going to have x squared plus y squared equals 1600, and then we're going to have y equals x plus 3 squared. Now you're going to move down and you're going to plug in y into our equation, so then we're going to get x squared plus x plus 3 times x plus 3 equals 1600. Now Desmo does kind of cheat and give you the answer to the whole problem, but we're going to ignore that. So yeah, now we're going to have, after we do this equation, after we multiply everything, and yeah, so we're going to get x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9 equals 1600. Now if you move down, we're going to get 2x squared plus 6x plus 9x equals 1600. Now we got that is because we added like terms up here. Okay? Now you will subtract 1600 from 1600 and 9. So we would get that. So we would get 2x squared plus 6x minus 1, 5, and 1 equals 0. Okay? Now if you didn't understand that, we would subtract 1600 from 1600, and we would subtract 1600 from 9 as well. We would get our answer down here. Okay? Now we're going to put that into the quadratic formula. We're going to put that into the quadratic formula. So your A would be 2, your B would be 6, and your C would be negative 1591. So now when we move down, we're going to get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 1591 over 2 times 2. Okay? So then once we pretty much do the math for that, we would get this. We would get negative 6x, or negative 6, sorry, plus or minus the square root of 36 plus 1,207 or 12,728, sorry, over 4. Okay? Now the only reason I didn't put plus or minus is because I actually don't know how to do the symbol, so forgive me for that. So yeah, as we move down, we're gonna add our 36 to 12,728, and we're gonna get 12,764. Okay? Now we're gonna do that over 4, okay? Because yeah. So now when we move down, we divide everything. We're gonna get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 12,764 over 4. Now when we do negative 6 plus 1, when we do negative 6, yeah, when we do the square root of 12,764, we're gonna get 112.977, okay, over 4. Now we're going to do negative 6 plus 112.977 over 4, and we're going to divide it and everything, and so we get 26.74425. We're just going to put 26.7 as our answer, okay? And now we move down, we're going to get, and then we're going to do it at the end. Subtract it this time. So negative 6 minus 112.977 over 4, and we divide it, we're going to get negative 29.74425. Okay? Now we're just going to put negative 29.7 as our answer. And that's what we pretty much get. Those are our two answers. And between 26.7 and negative 29.74, you would get reception. Okay? And that's our answer.